You're watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
Welcome back. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. 7 people submitted names to the Lubbock County Republican Party to be considered for the open Justice of the Peace nomination for Precinct 4. Current Judge Anne Marie Caruth is leading County Court at Law number 3. These 7 will get a chance to address the committee on Tuesday, and then those precinct chairs will vote on the candidate they want for the job. No Democrats are running for that this year. You know, traditionally, teachers get an apple on the first day of school. This year, on day 1, the Texas Education Agency gave teachers its graded report cards that no one really wanted to see. As KMAC's Steffi Lee reports, there's an ongoing debate on whether these grades are a fair assessment.
It is the most balanced system that we've ever had in Texas.
Texas Education Agency Commissioner Mike Morath gets his first chance to evaluate the new rating system for school districts statewide, speaking at a district getting an A.
Even our highest performing campuses, they can still improve in some area or another.
The system looks at student achievement, school progress, and how districts are closing the gaps. Breaking down the student achievement grade, 40% comes from STAR test results. Another 40% is based on college, career, and military readiness. And 20% is from the graduation rate.
We don't like the whole process.
However, the Texas State Teachers Association gives this process an F. For the weight, it gives STAR test results,
which do not represent anything but a student's ability to take a test on a given day. We believe that this is strictly a way for the state leaders to blame school kids and educators for their own shortcomings.
The group says the scores distract from the ongoing underfunding of public schools.
I think neither of those criticisms are really accurate in terms of how the system works.
Commissioner Morath says the scores are the result of a holistic evaluation.
It is predicated on a process of continuous improvement, but in order to engage in continuous improvement, we do have to measure performance.
In Austin, Steffi Lee, KMAC News.
Steffi, thank you so much. Let's spend 5 good minutes with our friend Clinton Gill with the Texas State Teachers Association. Let's talk about a few things, starting with the grading system from the TEA. It seems like an easy way for parents to find out if their kid's school is doing what it's supposed to, at least on the surface. So why does school leadership everywhere seem to hate this idea?
Because once again, it's just grading schools and districts on one test on one particular day. And so it makes it very difficult to determine whether an A school actually is the best or not. We've got some C school districts that are still meeting standards, so it makes them look bad because technically parents think a C or a D is failing when it's not. The state should have kept it where they met standard or didn't meet standard, so it's very easy for parents to understand the legislators put this into place, knowing full well what the outcome was going to be, and
Sure.
they've achieved that.
Well, and they say there's 3 categories involved with this: school achievement, school progress, and closing the gaps, as they call it, which has to do more, I think, with special needs kids and all that. On the surface, though, that seems a little broad-scoped to be trying to just say, to give grades out on a lot of things. Why not be more specific on some of the aspects that these schools need to improve on?
Well, I think it goes back to the point that schools are being graded on this one test, and it doesn't truly measure what the kids are learning. We've always been a proponent of accountability for public schools, and so if we're going to have the accountability, we need to be able to show a pre-test at the beginning of the year, post-test at the end of the year, and show how much of the gap has been closed, show how much the kids have actually learned from the beginning to the end, rather than just one test on one day.
There you go. Now, the school year often rolling across the state with $4 billion fewer state dollars for the public education budget. What's been the result of some of those budget issues as you've traveled around the region?
Well, I just, as a matter of fact, got back from Odessa earlier today, and down there, as of this morning, there's still 250 people short. So there's 250 vacancies in Ector County ISD alone that they just cannot fill because we don't have enough college of education around the state churning out the teachers, because we're seeing less and less going into public education.
And because of oil in the industry booming the way it is, they've got all those students coming in there.
Yeah, so we're going to have higher class sizes at the same time that they're cutting public education funding. So you're going to see schools continue to score lower because they don't have the necessary items in their classrooms in order to make progress for the students.
World's worst catch-22 there from the state level as well. Lieutenant Governor sent a letter recently asking that the TRS not raise rates on retiree premiums, though. Will that make a difference for the insurance-wise?
Not at all, because ultimately this is a fiasco that they created themselves in the legislature and so forth. In an election year, to come out and say that we don't need the rates raised, it's obviously a ploy for election time. And so the retirees have been fighting this battle for the last couple of years, and the legislature has not done anything to adequately address it. Yes, they put some extra money into it, but they haven't fixed the problem. And so until they actually fix the problem with health care, both for the active teachers that are in TRS care plus the retirees, and then give a cost of living to where retired teachers can actually afford to pay these premiums, it's just going to continue to get worse and worse.
And that's meant for folks who are not on Medicare eligibility, right?
Yeah, the state's looking at doing a $50 increase starting in January for those that are on non-Medicare coverage. So.
Tough for people on fixed incomes, especially with those retirees.
Definitely so.
So what are teachers saying about the safety protocols that we've been seeing more and more districts sort of embrace moving forward?
I think in this day and age, unfortunately, we have to put into place every safety protocol that we can. Lubbock ISD has rolled out something just this last week that's going to be district-wide, and I think that's the steps that we need to take, but we also need to see that the state provides funding for some of those measures to go in place. They cannot continue to expect districts to be able to provide these safety and security measures without any funding from the state. The state has to put in their share so the districts can keep our children safe and the educators safe as well.
It's the big deal moving forward as we edge closer and closer to the next legislative cycle, and we'll talk about school funding and everything else once again. Clinton Gill, come back and see us soon.
Will do. Thank you.
Straight ahead, Ted Cruz telling a Lubbock crowd and us the one thing that'll assure his re-election in November, and it's next on Talking Points.